Hearken warriors, welcome to the Brothers Gadenne Podcast, where we prepare you for the fury of emergencies, disasters, and the battles of everyday life. For Elder Verism, let us begin.
Welcome back, and today we're going to talk about resilience.
Resilience. So not just normal silience, we're going back to it and resilience.
Over and over and over again.
That was dangerously close to a dad joke and a brand of dad joke, which would be like our dad joke. Our dad.
Yeah, I don't think it was close. I think you're well and truly over the line on that one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. Why don't you say that as a compliment?
Yeah.
So today we're talking about the art of resilience. We're thinking about how to prepare the mind, the body, the spirit for extended periods, for the long fight, for pushing through, for how to come back from something.
Yeah. No, I think that, resilience, it's an interesting word. It gets bantered around a lot today. There's heaps of different YouTubes and courses and books on resilience out there. And I find it super interesting that there's a need for these kind of information out there, because I feel like, as most people do, maybe it's something that we've lost, an internal, intrinsic learning we've lost along the way.
Yes, well, it's certainly something we've been thinking about a bit lately. We've just penned the draft of the resilience chapter in the book that we are writing, the Ragnarok Survival Guide. So for those who aren't all over it yet, maybe this is the first time to this podcast, the Brothers Gadenne Podcast. We do have a website. We are building online courses on there, and I've just finished the first run of the Survival Psychology 101, which is all about resilience. So I built out that online course. It'll be hopefully up and running very soon, if not already. And we've been working on this idea, really pulling it apart. What is resilience, and creating a chapter in the book that who knows when that'll come out, but it's getting there.
Yeah, it's getting there, indeed. Put it together and we'll let you know as we get closer.
Awesome. So you can check that out at ragnaroksurvival.com, or feel free to drop us a line. And I'll put the contact points in the show notes, either in the podcast notes, or if you're looking at the video. I've changed the angle of the video too. Yeah, usually we're shooting across, and now I'm shooting straight down the camera. You're looking at profile.
So check that out for all those people who are listening to the podcast only.
Yeah, and actually on that, I just want to give a shout out to a comment that we got on one of our last videos on the YouTubes. If I can bring this up now. Where'd it go? It was from Wolf Spirit. No, it's a bit longer than that. This is the worst editing ever. I really should have been on top of this. Here it is. It just dropped out. Let me get this right. Koyos Wolf Spirit, at Koyos Wolf Spirit. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Koyos Wolf Spirit, or maybe it's Ko-Rios or Korios Wolf Spirit. Made a comment on the
tribe you come from.
Yeah,
in your pronunciation.
His comment is, "Fuck it, I'll listen."
Like it.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it. That's got to be the top comment I've ever heard. It's just listen.
If you want any of your weird comments read out, please feel free to chuck them in the YouTube comments or on any of the podcasts. The podcasts are actually a little bit harder for me to find, but usually it filters in. But I'm not usually looking at these things that often. I'm not one of those people who's like obsessed with social media, so I'm like looking at everything. Just every now and then I flick on there and go, is anyone complaining about our shows? Sometimes the levels are out. I get that. I'm trying to work it out, but we're getting there.
Getting more tech savvy every day, or maybe less. I haven't figured that one out either.
All right, let's jump into it. I've got a little quote here. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. That's from Haruki Murakami.
So I like that. Pain is inevitable. It means that, look, doesn't matter what you do in life, doesn't matter how comfortable you want to make yourself, that you're going to go through some sort of pain. And the suffering part is optional. So I like to relate this to a lot of things you do in life. There is, imagine a big bucket of water. This is your bucket of pain, and you're going to choose how you're going to drink this bucket. You can even have it dropped on your head, or you can choose to drink it one glass at a time.
I like that. I like that analogy. I actually use that analogy for a couple of other things too, but usually what I use for this particular one is a shit sandwich. So you've been handed a shit sandwich, you have to eat it. There's no getting around it. Now you can either sit there and whinge and bitch about it and go like, it's a shit sandwich, I don't want to take a bite, but you're gonna have to eat it. You might as well just stuff it in your mouth and swallow.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, okay. It depends how much sauce you got.
Yeah, there is. That just reminded me of another analogy: a bowl full of some appendage. But we'll leave that one for now. Yeah, suffering is optional. This one I like because I think actually off memory, it's a Nietzsche quote, Friedrich Nietzsche, and it's basically saying you have a first thought. That's actually, this might be a Stoic thing, but anyway. You have a first thought, you have a first reaction, it's usually emotive and linked to some stuff. Fine, throw that out. That's just going to be. It's the second one. It's what you do with that thought. So something might happen, you're like, oh man, this is crap. And then go, hang on, wait, let my rational mind get involved here. How do I actually want to feel about this? A lot of people, I think, will hold on to that first one and carry that through. Now, what we're talking about today with resilience is that space between those two. For me, at least, anyway, I'm thinking like, right, something happens. Do I just collapse? Do I give up? Or how do I reframe things in my mind in order to keep going? What is that key factor that's going to keep me going? That's going to keep me in the fight? That's going to cause that second effort for me, or third effort, or fourth effort, whatever it is, to keep pushing on. It's not just being made of iron. It's not just being like super tough or something like that. It's actually more of a bounce back for me.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't necessarily agree with this idea that, yeah, resilient means that you just will weather it under all conditions, but you need to have a way to weather it, or a way to come back after insult or injury. I think that is the key to resilience, as opposed from just being a rock.
And, the thing I'm always interested in whenever I'm learning about subjects, I'm thinking about survival, I'm thinking about prepping, I'm thinking about whatever it is, especially with these sort of more psychological aspects of it. Can it be trained? Can we train resilience, or is it just something you have or don't have?
I think absolutely it can be trained. And I think about this training, particularly in this area of the mind. This is sort of where we have an inbuilt reflex. And so we call this the fight, flight, or freeze reflex. And we have one already inbuilt because that's the way nature made us, and we wouldn't survive otherwise. But what I believe, something I've learned throughout my years in doing martial arts and training with defense, is that you can rebuild. You can rebuild a new reflex. So you might not be happy with your reflex at the moment, which might be to freeze or to run. But you can build a new reflex with training. There are other aspects to this training that we'll get into in a minute, but this is the initial, where it starts, is what is my initial reflex to this hardship? What do I do, and what do I want to change it to?
Yeah, I certainly hope you can train it, because I've built a damn course on it. All right, so let's start by going back, kind of reframing this a little bit. We've touched a lot on this, but we'll just kind of reiterate this and set the frame, set the scene. What is resilience? How is it often seen, or how do you see it seen or explained, or how people think about it out in the world?
So I think resilience is, look, it has a lot of layers to it. I mean, we're talking a lot now, and a lot of people, when they talk about this, talk about the self, how you feel as an individual, what happens when you suffer from something that is a little bit of hardship. But resilience expands from there. So it goes from your mind to your body. How does your body respond? How do you make your body more resilient to inputs and outputs? How do you make your equipment, the things around you that you carry, do they improve on your resilience? How do you make the people around you, your community, more resilient, and your general environment that you live and work in? How do you make that more resilient and work out from there?
Yeah, quite often what I'm seeing out there, and we've had a discussion about this before, the resilience when it's taught or talked about out in the world, in the blogosphere, that's not a thing anymore, the podcast sphere, the YouTube sphere, I don't know, the influencer sphere. Yeah. When people are talking about resilience, it's very personal. How do you do something to improve yourself, which is absolutely foundational. It's very important. But then I often see a bit of a gap for it then bouncing out or being pushed out into other spheres or further and further spheres.
Absolutely. I think those conversations just end just way too early. Just talking about the self, like that's the start of the conversation. It's nowhere near the end of the conversation about resilience.
Yeah. So, like, obviously we put a bit of import on this, not import.
Which is a good idea.
Could go a port, actually. No, we put importance on this idea because this is actually one of our entire spheres. Our training is broken up into 4 different spheres that are interlocking and all work off each other and all aid in the other spheres being better in some way. So that's physical, it's knowledge, it's skills, and then the 4th sphere is resilience. So resilience is really one of those key ones that allows us, you can maybe start to slide in there will or stick-to-itiveness.
There is a lot of crossover, a lot of lapping in all those areas that all seem to come under the banner or the name of resilience.
Yep. So it's obviously a big thing for us, resilience, training resilience, thinking about resilience and how it interties with the other things. Just as a rough example, if I'm thinking off the top of my head, so physical. I can go and train myself and I can be quite a good fit, quote unquote, person. But it's kind of like maybe I only train when the sun is out and I feel really good and everything is optimal. So my body's not hurting, I'm feeling full of energy, I'm feeling excited about life, the sun's shining, I'll go out for a jog, for example. Now, if you speak to my wife at all, she'll tell you that I never go for a jog when it's sunny. That she goes, there's something wrong with you in your head where it's like, oh, it's raining outside, or it's sleeting, oh, it's about to snow outside. That's the time I'll be going out there. It's 3 a.m. and it's 2 degrees. Yep, that's the time that I'm going out there running. There's something about that, like, I think running is just so painful for me that I like to enhance the pain in other ways as well. I might as well just lump it all in. But it's about that resilience. It's about me getting up in the morning and going, I don't want to train. But the resilience there is going, no, actually push through. That mental toughening, that mental discipline.
And being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. So the reason people stop and don't run out in the rain, it's not because you get wet, because you get wet in the shower. There's no issues with that. You're going to get home and you're going to get warm and dry. But actually stepping out and getting soggy shoes and soggy T-shirt means that you've got to be a little bit uncomfortable to feel that cold biting into you as you're trying to focus on your run at the same time.
One of my favourite things I like to say, and you can attribute this quote to me, it's not mine, but feel free to, is that, so on courses, usually teaching this, people go, I would just do this, I would just do that if this ever happens. Emergencies, in my experience, never happen when you want them to happen. In all emergency situations that I've ever been in, I've never been well-fed, rested, lots of sleep, ready to go, feeling switched on, had all the right equipment, had all the right clothing. It wasn't raining. It was always like the middle of the night. It's raining. Things are shit. I get woken up. I'm sick at the time. My knees hurt. Whatever it is, there's always something that's negative, and that emergency happens on its time, not my time. So I have to deal with it.
I'd say almost happens without doubt in an uncomfortable time. When you don't want it to happen, that's when something bad's going to kick off.
Yep.
That's when you're going to expect it.
Yeah. And the truth is, like, there's a reality there that the emergency is the emergency. It's like the shit sandwich is the shit sandwich. I'm going to have to deal with it. If I've got a problem with it being at 2 a.m, that's my problem. That's not the emergency's problem. It's going to do what it's going to do. I just have to deal with it. So this goes with another quote, and it's I would argue probably my favorite of all the quotes that I ever put out there. You never rise to the occasion. You always fall to your level of training. And understanding that means that I'm much less likely to go into kind of a victim mentality, go to this sort of whingy, sort of like, oh, why is this happening to me? Oh, this sucks. Go straight to that resilient mindset where I'm like, okay, this is happening and I have to deal with it.
And then just breaking apart that problem in front of you. And if you train for it, like training is, you'll build up piece by piece to those complex situations that we're talking about. So it's not just dealing with the emergency, but dealing with the complexity of things not being quite right. And you should build that. You should actually add and think about how you're going to build that into your training or your daily activities for building your resilience.
One that gets thrown out there quite a bit is cold water plunges.
Yeah.
Quite hip nowadays, quite cool. And I do them because I am hip and cool. But yeah, that's one of those things is like, yeah, I don't want to get in it. I don't want to do it. But I do it because it is flexing a muscle. It is building a psychological system or muscle there, working it out. That means when something else comes along and I'm like, I don't want to do this, I feel like I'm more likely to actually do it because I do have that as a practice.
Doing these uncomfortable things, look, it's not just, say, psychological. They're literally or physically is a part of your brain that will grow that under these demands. The more you do these hard things, these uncomfortable things, this part of your brain will grow and expand and become better at it.
All right, let's talk about the inner fight. So when you sort of thinking about maybe self-defense as an example here, a lot of people think self-defense is just how do I Jackie Chan my way out of the situation? How do I spinning heel kick to the face this guy? How do I hug this man down to the ground and then grind on him and wrap my arms around him until he submits? If you're into that sort of stuff, just
for all those BJJ listeners.
Yeah. we just lost 33% of our 3 listeners. A lot of people think it's just about that. It's the win. There's actually an entire step, a psychological step before that, where we have to actually win a battle in our mind, which I call the first battle, in order to admit to yourself this is happening. And I'm talking about self-defense here, but this could be any sort of emergency that's happening. Very few people, I think, on Earth would walk around day to day going, something bad is about to happen, something bad is about to happen, something bad is about to happen. Most of us think life is generally going to be okay, and then when we're presented with information that it's not, the first default setting is, no, this can't be happening. So we have to get over that. This is that first battle. It's actually pushing through in your mind and going, no, this is happening.
Mm. And you think about that, I think about the stories of like the context of the Bali bombing. And they had people with explosions going off and people still were trying to eat their dinner. People wanted to pay for their dinner and leave, but they didn't quite acknowledge that something bad was happening at that particular point in time.
Yeah. Again, this is a concept I've been thinking about quite a lot with writing some of this sort of stuff, especially on the Survival Psychology 101 course. These mental traps, really, or these mental models that we build that are totally appropriate and beneficial for the normal world, the mundane world, the surface world, the world that we live in most of the time. However, when we breach through that threshold and go to the upside down world, the emergency world, those sets of rules that we usually live by, like I better not run because I've got to pay for this meal, and that's going to cause, embarrassment. That's going to cause further problems. That's going to, be a bit mean to the people who own this place. That sort of thinking now is antithetical to what we need to do, which is just survival in that zone there. So part of this kind of idea, how we're bringing this back into resilience, is that we are being aware that these bad things can happen, that we're building a mindset that is able to adapt quickly to new information, and that is also able to hold those two realities in that space and not fall apart, break apart, and become some sort of fear-mongering, weirdo that just...
Yeah, and I suppose not letting one of those realities take over too strongly in your mind. Just understand that they need to coexist.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. So there is a way you can sort of think about this, that a lot of the stuff that we're doing in the normal world that we're seeking is comfort, essentially. We want to be comfortable, and we want to be comfortable more often. So we have air conditioning units in our house, or fireplaces, or whatever. We keep an even temperature in our house and in our cars. We rarely expose ourselves to extremes of temperature. We rarely expose ourselves to elements like rain, like snow, unless we do it in a very confined, constructed way that is pleasing to us. So I can go snowboarding as long as it's not too sleety and rainy. The sun's got to be out. It's got to be fresh powder. Yeah. So, this sort of stuff actually works against us, because we are training, like you were saying before. We can grow parts of the brain. We can train parts of the brain to grow stronger by practicing resilience. And we need to do that because we're growing parts of the brain stronger that are seeking comfort and that are getting used to comfort.
And you become comfortable with being comfortable, so you'll forget how to be uncomfortable and what that feels like. And then that relates to your body, to your mind as shock. And then, you react accordingly in a state of shock.
To touch back on the cold water, not the cold water plunges, but the thing you said right at the start of like a bucket of water being dumped on you. One of the analogies that I use is between the mundane, the ordinary world and the emergency world, is being thrown into the emergency world is akin to being thrown into cold water. Now, part of me getting into cold water every second, third day, whatever I do it, is me going, I am willingly getting into it. There's a huge difference between me looking at the cold water, going, I'm going to do this, I'm getting into it, going through some breathing exercises, getting in there, being in control of myself, learning how to control myself in that. Or if all of a sudden I was asleep, next thing I know, somebody was picking me up, and next thing I know, I've been dumped into freezing cold water. My body would go through an entirely different reaction if I was in that. I would go definitely into shock, and I would have a few automated reactions that would start to happen.
Absolutely. There's a huge difference between choosing uncomfortability and trying to, refuse it or fight it. The way your mind is evolved to respond is quite different to those two situations.
Cool. So let's start to delve into maybe some ways that we can train this. What are some things that we can do in order to make ourselves more resilient as human beings?
So I think we'll go through some longer term things that we can do to train. First of all, I'm going to give you 2 things that we can do in an acute situation that you can practice and rehearse straight away. So we get into an acute situation where we something surprises us, we get upset, or we're anxious and we want to calm down immediately and take control of the situation. And you can practice before you go into your ice bath, before getting up to talk, or before putting yourself in a comfortable situation. So 2 things we can control is physiologically, or 2 things that happen when we get anxious, is we get an increased heart rate and our vision closes down. becomes focused and centralized. One thing we can do, people talk about this often, is breathing. So through breathing, you can slow your breathing down. It's one of the mechanisms that you can quite easily control. And that in return will slow your heart rate down and stop some of those fight or flight feelings and emotions. So you start, there's two methods that I'll talk through now. One is the box breathing. It's 4 breaths in, hold for 4, 4 breaths out, hold for 4. And you just continue that around for a couple of cycles, and you'll quickly find that your heart rate will drop. Some of your anxiety will wear off.
That's a 4 count breathing in, a 4 count hold, a 4 count breathing out.
Absolutely.
4 count hold.
So just go through 4 seconds on each sort of section in your mind. And they call it box because it's got 4 sides to it.
We used to do 5 seconds in the commandos. Just no big deal.
Just because you need longer to relax.
Well, just one better.
And the other one is what they call the physiological sigh. This one is like take a deep breath in, do it fast, even take a second breath to get a full lung in, and then just breathe out nice and slowly out through your mouth. So in through your nose fast, out through your mouth just nice and slow. Purse your lips and push it out, and just repeat that a couple of times, and you'll feel everything relax. The other sort of technique or trick that I'd like to give you today is your vision. So you can actually change vision. So your vision becomes narrowed, becomes focused. So if you're feeling yourself becoming anxious, think about expanding your vision, taking more in, look wider, look to your peripherals and see what information you can pick up, what you can see in your peripheral vision. This will cause your pupils to constrict in a little bit. You take in a little bit more of that outside information, and your body will respond in kind by slowing down.
So, like, in a kind of way, what we're doing there, you've got a psychological stimulus causing a physiological response. You're seeing something that's like shocking or whatever, so you're having increased heart rate, increased breathing rate. You're having that adrenaline effect. Then you're reversing that. You're going, hang on, I'll take control of what I can take control of here physiologically, and that should then work psychologically on you.
And think about that's important aspect of all of these is like take control of what you can control. And there are things you can in your own body. It doesn't have to be a runaway train once it starts.
It's one of the tenets, if you could call it that, of Stoicism is control what you can and accept / ignore what you can't. Not ignore, but like, there are things that are outside of our control. We cannot do anything about that. Worrying, concerning ourselves about it is not helpful. So we look at, okay, what can I control? What can I do? And breath is a great one. Looking around, like changing what I'm actually taking in, using my senses is another one. We can do that, and we can train that as well. So to add on that, I just want to throw in another one that we quite often teach on courses, which is verbalization. It's just speaking out what you see. And once you sort of practice it a few times, you obviously internalize it. You don't sit there in an emergency going, okay, I'm seeing 3 bad guys running towards me. They're carrying AK-47s, you're not sitting there speaking it out. You're just telling yourself, you're giving yourself a log of what's actually going on. What you're doing there is a couple of things. You are exerting some sort of psychological control over the situation because you're naming it, you're saying it, you're going, yes, I can see that. I can control it in a way in my mind. The other thing you're doing is forcing situational awareness. So you're forcing what you're saying there, that you're looking at things. You're not just zeroing in and going, gun. You're going, okay, yeah, 3 people with guns. Exit off to the left, people running to the right. Okay, where's my car? What's the exit? What else am I seeing? Where do I have to move to? What's cover? What's concealment? Yeah,
and think like the more details you can add into that, the better. The more it slows down your thought process a little bit.
So a few things that I try and do, which I feel are beneficial. They may or may not work for you, but give them a crack if you want. So yeah, a bit of breath work, like you were saying, like learning how to actually breathe, control your breath, especially the psychological sighing one. I probably do more often than not. Box breathing, I do a little bit, but it has to be really conscious for me. Like I quite often forget it and then go, oh, hang on. Yeah, I'm sucking in big ones, try and slow it down. And I'll do that when I'm training too. So when I'm doing workouts, especially like Metcon workouts or high intensity interval training, something like that, and you're just gassed at the end of it, I'll really try and at that point go, okay, now's the point where I want to try and control that breath, because that is similar, physiologically speaking, to how I would be or how I have been when I'm in emergencies.
Yeah, it's a great time to practice it when you are sort of pumped up after a workout, because you can control that a lot more often than waiting for some sort of other response where you're worked up and anxious.
Yep. I've got other morning routines and habits and things like that I've tried to implement, like disciplines and things like that. So exposure to heat, exposure to cold, the old sauna / ice bath. I don't do ice baths. I just do cold water.
Cold water?
It's just too much of a stuff around for me to like fill a little bucket thing with ice and get in it. So it's pretty cold where I live. So in winter, it's fine.
I'm surprised it's not ice if you just left a bucket of water outside.
Yeah. I've got a little barrel thing just outside the door, and in the dead of winter, you've got to crack the ice off it. But it's just a way. Sometimes I just go and stand outside, with no shoes on, no shirt on, or something like that. And so it's cold out there. I'm exposing myself to that, and I'm doing that purposefully. Journaling is another one for me, and this might sound weird to people. It's like journaling, like how does that even fit in? What I'm actually doing there when I'm journaling, here, dear diary, today Anthony yelled at me again and pissed me off. No. It's actually just a reflection of how I'm feeling and what's going on. So it's teaching me subconsciously, but I'm doing it overtly as well, that to listen to how I'm thinking and what's going on, to check in. So I do it, get up in the morning, I do a little meditation practice, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. And what I'm doing is just sort of like dropping in and being there. And then I write, how am I feeling that morning? Usually I'm in pain and I didn't sleep well. I'm tired. That's no surprise. But it doesn't matter what it is. Might be feeling fantastic, might be feeling crap, but it's just teaching me to figure out how I'm feeling. The idea being that I get more articulate, I get more able to converse with my own body, with my own thoughts. So I should be able to do that under pressure. You do not rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. So if I'm training this sort of stuff, I should be able to do it in an emergency. It becomes default. Anything else?
No, I mean, you get the theme on this. A lot of it is just creating your own self-awareness. So knowing yourself, knowing what you feel, and knowing to be aware of that in these situations.
Yep. I kind of want to jump here to another subject, and I don't know how to sum it up. Fear is not the enemy, is what I've got written down. But really, it's this idea both of resilience and of fear that I quite often come up against but when I'm talking to people, they go, oh, you resilience, right? I need to be unbreakable. That's not my concept of resilience. Or I have to be fearless in these situations. And that's not my experience. I am pants shitting fearful in emergencies quite often.
I think it's an interesting. So we both come from a special forces background, and there's probably a bit of an assumption that you guys go, no, you don't feel fear, like you're not afraid, and you do all these dangerous things. But I would challenge that. I don't think there is anyone in special forces that doesn't feel fear. Fear is an important part of our emotion structure, and I think it's good to know all your emotions: fear, happiness, love, joy, sadness, and you should exercise these emotions at every chance you get, like you would any other muscle. If you do not exercise them, you will not have control over them, fear included. So you need to find a safe way to exercise all these emotions.
Yeah. Being in an adrenaline state is similar in some ways to a really hard workout. So I can't be in an adrenaline state very often. It's hard to manufacture that, but I can do a hard workout where I'm gassed. And so I'm simulating that in a way. And I'm giving myself exposure to it. So my body's getting exposed to it, my mind's getting exposed to it. And then when it does happen, it's not like, holy shit, what's going on here? I'm freaking out. It's like, oh yeah, I know this zone here. You can still operate. You can still do stuff. It's okay. Fear is similar. It's hard to simulate fear in a safe way. But if you can do that, it's worthwhile doing it. Becoming accustomed to this, knowing what fear's like, and then understanding. Fear's one of those emotions in the modern world that people are like, that's bad, that's icky, I don't like that one, we're not going to have it. I don't like being sad, I don't like being fearful, all this sort of stuff. And so it's avoided, where what we actually need to do is develop a relationship with our fear to understand that fear. Because fear to me it's like, this is here for a reason. These emotions evolved for a reason. The limbic system evolved to keep us alive on a very, very short timeline. So, a short, very fast acting sort of thing, where we don't have time to analyze things. We don't have time to weigh up data and go, oh, this is good, this is bad, maybe I should do this. We're not buying a car. We are running from a saber-toothed tiger in this situation. So fear is telling me something. It's information, it's data. It's going like, hey, something's wrong. Quite often, my conscious mind might not have picked up on it. My subconscious mind's just going like, bad, 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 get away. So it's a warning signal that goes, hey, wake up. You need to do something right now. That's certainly the way I've felt it. The absence of fear is not a good thing. Learning to deal with fear, having fear there, and then going, okay, now what do I do?
And being able to function with these feelings. Like, again, you've got to know that you're feeling fear and not having it overwhelm you, and still being able to function, do the things that you do. I know, look, when as a specialist, we do parachuting. A lot of guys hate it. You go, oh, they're jumping out of planes.
I hate it.
Yeah. Jumping out of plane is scary. It's not fun. Well, most of the time. And it's for a lot of guys, it was not an enjoyable thing. But they learn to overcome that fear by working their way through it and still being able to function and do the job.
Yep. Yeah, I was terrified.
A lot. I think most people I talk to hate falling out of the sky.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like heights. I'm okay with heights, but I don't love them, and I get pretty shaky up there. So doing like fast roping out of helicopters, rappelling down buildings and stuff like that. I did it, but I didn't love it.
No.
And jumping out of a plane, that's some sort of insanity.
It is. Falling from the sky, just hoping that this little bit of material is going to stop you spudding into the earth at X amount of kilometres per hour is kind of unnatural.
It is probably worth just quickly digressing here and explaining to people that there's different kinds of parachutes in the military, but the ones we used to use, like T-32 or something?
T-10?
T-10? I can't even remember. Anyway, they're a parachute that's designed to drop a large amount of human beings onto a relatively small area very quickly with almost zero control for those human beings, because you start giving soldiers autonomy, especially in the air and under fearful circumstances. They start doing crazy things. You just kind of fall to the ground, and I heard it described once as you're coming down at the speed as if you were jumping off a second-story balcony. So you're hitting the ground hard. Yeah,
I once had it described to me as this, look, when you leave the plane, if you didn't have a parachute, you'd have 10 seconds before you hit the ground. Now you've got a parachute, you've got 40 seconds before you hit the ground. It was a lot slower.
No. Yeah. So that just to illuminate why, it's not like just the idea of parachuting totally fills me with fear. It's just like that my particular experience through the military does. All right. So let's talk about some practical tools or things that people can take away. Obviously, we're not going to tell you every little thing that you could do, everything that's going to work for you. Just a couple of little ideas to get you thinking about it. And then apart from that, you can maybe contact us, jump on the website, have a look, at the courses that we've got and start to think about this yourself. So, anything you've got?
So we talked about some of the acute sort of things that you can do. You've brought up going to ice baths, saunas, and doing uncomfortable things on a regular basis like that, making it part of your, say, I won't say daily, but weekly rituals, things that you do all the time that you can build up to build that mental muscle to get used to being comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yep. One uncomfortable thing a day, a week, whatever it is for you personally. If you're a person, you're quite pain avoidant, that you're a creature of comfort, as many folk are. Maybe just pick something this week. Go, right, this I know I don't like doing. This is what I'm going to try and do this week in some way. It might be public speaking. It might be asking that girl out. It might be like going for a real hard run. It might be, doing some sort of other type of physical activity. It might be a Scottish shower. Scottish shower is a good one.
For those of you that don't know what a Scottish shower is.
Oh, Claddie. It's when you get in the shower. No, sorry. I'll refrain from a Scottish accent. It's just ending your shower off with like 30 seconds of cold. So this was a practice I did for a long time. So you still get your nice hot shower. You get your hot shower, everything's cool, everything's comfortable, and then right at the end you're like, okay, here we go, I'm nice and warm now, bang, crank it on that cold, and just 30 seconds, just ride the coldness out. Ride the dragon. No one says that. Ride the Scotsman. Get some haggis in you, laddie. Hey, and some whiskey. All right. That's a good one. Give that a try. And let us know how it goes. Send us a comment on the social medias, on Instagram, on YouTube. Tell us about the world about your shower habits.
Or just tell us what you did that was uncomfortable and how you felt afterwards. Because, look, there are immediate benefits to doing some of these things as well. If you're successful in staying in that ice bath for that extra minute, that extra 30 seconds, you will have accomplished something. You will get a bit of a dopamine rush from it. You will feel good for doing these uncomfortable things. There's lots of reasons why you should do uncomfortable things, but on top of the benefits you'll get, you'll learn how to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Sleep outside.
Yeah.
I'm a weirdo, right? Yeah. Should be well known. There was a period where I decided I'm just going to sleep on the floor. And all I had was a yoga mat and a doona. And that was it. And I just slept on the floor. Did it for a while too. And I was living in I'm not living out in the bush at this period of my life. There are periods where I was. But at this point in my life, I was living in Bondi Junction in Sydney, paying exorbitant rent to sleep on a floor.
That's a good plan.
Yeah. But it was uncomfortable, and that was kind of the point of it, I guess. I think. I don't know. I'd have to interview my past self. He's a weird dude. Okay, let's wrap this up and kick this one into touch. So some key takeaways from today. Do you have anything?
So get out there, try these uncomfortable practices. Find what you can do now on a weekly, daily sort of basis to test this out. Test it out in a safe way, and then build it up and let us know when you actually come across that day where things aren't where you want them to be and how your training progressed into that. Let us know how it worked.
Yeah, definitely let us know. I'm keen to know how it works for you. The one of the key takeaways for me, I think, was something you mentioned earlier. We kind of slightly touched on it. We are talking about that self version of resilience, but it's about building that self-resilience and then letting that emanate outward. How does that affect my family? How does that affect my family? How can I encourage others to build resilience? Because resilience, there's the individual version. Then there's how do I make my family more resilient? How do I make my finances more resilient? How do I make my systems more resilient? How do I make my community more resilient. So, that's something to think about. This is a launching pad. This is a foundational part, but it is the foundation. We need to then build on it from there. The other thing is, if you haven't got it yet, that far from resilience being something that is inherent within people, like you just got it or you don't, it is utterly trainable. I don't think it is actually inherent in anyone. I mean, it's inherent as it is in anyone, that we are all made of the same stuff. We have lasted however long as a species and have evolved. So obviously the resilience code is there within you, in your DNA, to unlock. But it is something that requires training in order for it to come out.
And we've talked about doing this as an individual. I recommend try and find other resilient people to hang around with. You as a person will become like the people you hang around. So if you want to be more resilient, find others that already have it and just hang with them.
Yeah. Yep. Just listen to this podcast. That's all you need.
That's all you need.
All right. Yeah, just to wrap up, I've only mentioned it like 6 or 7 times so far, but we've got the latest Ragnarok survival online courses being pumped up there. So to do with this course, I think you've got the risk readiness protocol, which is the first, and it's the course that you have to do in order to do any of the other courses. More about planning. It'll start to get you in the right mindset. There's a little bit of this sort of stuff in a couple of the Preparedness course, but really the Survival Psychology 101 course focuses on this. It's about how do we shape our minds, how do we change our mindset, what's actually going on in our brains in an emergency. So check that one out, and we'll keep tapping away at the book and hopefully get the Ragnarok Survival Guide out there.
It's coming.
It is coming. It is coming. So watch this space. All right. Plug of all the social things. So if you liked this episode, or you liked us, or if you hated this episode and you hate our stupid voices and faces, let us know. Put it up in a comment, because it actually affects the algorithm, and the algorithm doesn't care if your comment is good or bad. It just spreads the word. No, help us spread the word. Obviously, what we're trying to build here is something that really benefits everyone. It's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit your community. It's going to benefit the people around you, your families. So help us spread the word, get it out there, share this particular podcast with a friend. Say, hey, listen to these idiots, and they might like our stupid faces and voices. Who knows?
Cool.
All
right. That's us for today. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much.
We will catch you next time.
See you on the next one. That is the end of this tale. Until next we meet, keep the fires burning. Fra Eldi Verisum.